Ireland inch out Italy in Rome. Hello, amateurs. Welcome back to our Six Nations series, and I've got Elko with me again today to chat this one through. Elko, how you doing?
ACC, yeah, really good. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome, as always. Now then, this one had a little bit of a kind of a dead rubber feel to it, to be honest, before the game, and my overall impressions were that's a little bit how it played out. It just didn't quite have the intensity of some of the other games in this championship.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It was a bit after the Lord Mayor show with what happened the week before and sort of things we kind of knew miracles were needed. And yeah, it felt a little bit underwhelming, and maybe the players felt that a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's something we often talk about, isn't it? Like the emotional state of the players off the massive disappointment of the previous week. And Ireland just, for me, not every player, but there were a handful of players that I thought would just off their game a little bit. Mac Hansen was one that I thought, and I'm a huge fan of Mac Hansen. I thought he was just a little bit sloppy at times, and a few others as well.
Yeah, to use an Andy Farrell kind of word, it all looked a bit clunky. And the expectation, I think, from fans, if I can say, certainly from me and press, I think was a bounce back. After last week, let's see when we spoke about it in the pre-pod. It just didn't work out that way, and don't want to be disparaging to Italy either, because I think Italy played some really great stuff, and we thought they would do, but it was thoroughly disappointing. We'll get into how we scored and stuff like that. We weren't seeing a magnificent tries and great play or breaks or anything else. It was pretty kind of basic stuff how we scored our tries, and we kind of did what we had to do. It was fairly robotic. We got the result kind of we needed to, or the best we probably could have done on the day, but it was never in our hands. And I think when it's never in your hands, it's a little bit harder to be emotionally at the high you need it to be.
Yeah, and you're right. Italy did play some really good stuff. They ran the ball as they're prone to do, with Brexham and Menoncello again being a really unbelievable partnership. And it was Menoncello who made the break for put Garbisi through, and a great bounce up of the ball for Ioane to score the opening try. And that's what Italy wanted. They wanted to get their noses in front and put the pressure on the Irish, and they managed to do it.
Yeah, and I guess from an Irish point of view, what was really disappointing about that was that it was from a 22 dropout. And normally we're the ones creating something from a 22 dropout. That's what Farrell's brought in, and some trick plays, things like that. Even with Joe Schmidt. But in this case, it was poor defence. Mac Hansen, who you mentioned earlier, rushed up on the outside. He got stepped back inside. A brilliant break from Manchel where he hit and was managed to offload. Lovely little chip through, and a great finish in the corner on the left hand side. But you could see Mac Hansen putting his hand up, going, "I messed up there." Great play, but really sloppy from Ireland. Come on, I mean, looking back on that, I think on tape you'd be like, we could have stopped that much earlier on. But fair play, really well finished by the Italians.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because it's one of these things that you don't see very often. So it was Brex who threw the pass, and it was meant for Garbisi, but he just got the pass so completely wrong that I think that was what stopped Hansen. It was because he hasn't really seen anything quite like that before, and he found it really hard to judge, I think.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those ones where when you get a bounce pass by mistake, and all of a sudden defensively you're just kind of slightly off, and you're right. That inch, that microsecond of is the time when you get stepped and you can't do anything about it. So once you've gone outside, which he probably thought was where the ball was going, then you're skippered there.
Yeah, absolutely. Another theme from this game, though, was disallowed tries, and Ireland actually had 3 disallowed in the end. The first one was to Sheehan with a pick and go, and rightly ruled out for a double movement. But then Italy, who had played a lot of decent stuff, really started shooting themselves in the foot. They had 3 injuries to forwards in the first half, so 3 subs on, including team captain Lamoureux, who then committed basically professional suicide
Oh
by
my God.
slapping the ball out of Gibson Park's hands whilst kneeling in a ruck, which was one of the craziest, silly things that I think I've ever seen on a rugby pitch.
Yeah, it was pretty infuriating for everybody. I think it was just so. He just couldn't help himself, could he? It was like a fish on a fly. He just had to kind of go for it. You could see how angry he was, because obviously that was his. I think he's had quite a few games in a row, or certainly quite a few tournaments in a row where he's been starting and he'd been dropped, and I know that was a story in Italy over there, and he gets an early start to come on and prove the people wrong, and he does that so quickly. And as I said earlier, that gave Ireland an opportunity, an easy in, to go and do what they do, throw the line out, do what Connacht do, and get all the backs in, and it's very hard to stop sort of thing. But it was really poor discipline from him there, and you could tell on sat on the naughty step, he wasn't too happy with himself either.
Yeah, the throwing the gum shield on the floor in
Yeah,
frustration as he left the pitch made me chuckle though.
yeah,
But you're right, it was right before half time. Ireland kicked the corner, got the try from Sheehan, and such a massive psychological turning point for all of that to happen within a minute of the half, when I think Italy were leading at the time. I haven't got the right in front of me, but I think
yeah. I
they
think you're right.
were.
Yeah,
Yeah, so really, really, really silly from them. And
yeah,
Ireland scored again soon after the half time as well.
yeah. And just on that point there, the timing of it's also the psychology of when a team can kick to the corner and they will score, which kind of it's so hard to stop now, that with that sort of 5-8 meters out, and Ireland have got really really good at it, as you can see with Sheehan's try count, although a lot of them are from open play as well, to be fair. But psychologically that kills you, but it also means that you can't compete as hard as maybe you want to be further out because you're afraid to give away a penalty. So it's a domino effect, and it really he really put them in a bad place there. But Ireland took their chance well.
Yeah, they did. But while we're talking about discipline, let's talk about the Vincent yellow card as well, because that was directly after an Ireland try, and he's got such a long run up to see all of that coming. And this is the type of one that the players have just got to control themselves,
Yeah,
because that was completely unacceptable.
yeah, it was quite sickening really when he saw it, and the way the referee reacted, you knew straight away it was like, oh, because he couldn't really see. He was kind of in behind in the live pictures, and then you saw obviously the ref Luke Pearce could see it because he was right beside it, but we couldn't see it. And then we saw on the replay, I was like, oh my god, and you could hear the crowd. And we've spoke how many times, like, you're a big fan of this guy's pace, right? How quick he is. He's so fast. So a full run up fast. He's got to be wiser. He needs to be chopping there. But he's probably afraid of being stepped by Keenan. Now, did just on that, did Keenan go off for HIA? I don't think he did he?
Not that I remember. No,
Yeah,
no.
that's another one of those where I think he got hit full on. How is the gum shield thing not going off there? I was a bit worried about that when watching it live, but anyway, yeah, another bit of poor discipline there by the Italians, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Ireland took full advantage, and the try, the Sheehan hat-trick try, was a real quality piece of play. And I would say we've seen a lot of this kind of stuff from the French. So essentially what Ireland were doing, they were just hitting up through the midfield, trying to get ground, waiting for that moment. And the moment Gibson Park saw that Italy had overcommitted to the open side, he was gone. Like, he was gone. The kick was across, possibly a little bit wider than he hoped to, but Hansen deal with it, batted it back inside to Sheehan for the hat-trick try.
Yeah, it was a brilliant bit of jumping skills by the kangaroo there to get up and down, and Sheehan finished it off nicely. And I have written in my notes there, but before I sort of talk the comparison with Dupont, and if Dupont was doing that, we'd be saying, oh my god, it's absolutely incredible. I think we need to give James Gibson Park his dues there. It was a brilliant bit of vision. We saw it against Wales with his old pal on the left wing as well. But my only worry is, and I think we're looking to play, and we have to play this way a little bit, is a bit what I was alluding to before, is that defenses have worked us out. That's the feeling I'm getting. I don't think we're able to break down, or they're defending slightly different. I was sort of, as you know, I was in Ireland at the weekend, and I was listening to some of RTE's coverage, and they were very much talking about the Australian fixture in the autumn, about how Joe Schmidt had set up against Ireland, and that everybody else is copying that. And I need to relook at that, but from memory, it was people aren't rushing this anymore. They're absorbing us, which means we can't get our tip on play going. And so we're having to sort of revert back to maybe simpler plays with crossfield kick, which, if we take them, that's great. But it is a slight worry, and we're going to have to go away and have a look at this of how Ireland attack moving forward.
Yeah, because at this stage of the game, it looked really that Ireland were potentially just going to go and stretch away a little bit. But then something that we mentioned earlier that can put defences off, a bounce pass by the Italians, led to Capowazzo absolutely screaming down the right-hand touchline. He took off so quickly then, I couldn't quite believe it. Chip over, and this was an example of where Matt Hansen was just a little bit off. That ball bounced backwards, and it looked like he could have just caught it. But I think a lack of focus for a second or whatever, it went through his hands and Varney scored, and it was back within a score.
Yeah, it was unbelievable play from that kid. And again, you love him, and he's so exciting to watch. I mean, geez, unfortunately that we can't pick him for the Lions, but he'd be a shoe-in, I think. To be fair, and it was a brilliant. I mean, Ringrose didn't defend particularly well, came flying out, and he was over chasing it. And missed it. He got gassed, and then the bounce of the ball, it kind of reminiscent to an old Calcutta Cup game up in Murrayfield years ago, where the ball bounces back over and one of your was Underwood scores in the corner. But it was great, but unfortunately for the winger, he didn't score, did he? It was the sub-9 who actually scored the try in the end. Yeah. Cheeky little boy. But it was a brilliant bit of play. But on the sort of score as well, I think we missed some kicks, right? I think one of the things to come out of the game is all the pressure with this Sam Prendergast and Crowley battle of who's going to get in. There was some really bad kicks missed, and I think with Italy, the way they can come at you, you've got to build a score against them, and we were never out of touch. They were always there, which in itself is quite difficult to, psychologically, you want to just get that breakaway, and then, but often what you'll see is then the winning team will pull away, and that just never happened for Ireland.
No, it nearly did towards the end though, as James Lowe went tiptoeing up the left touchline, ball back inside to Keenan, who grounded the ball for a try. And my first reaction watching this live was, there is no way James Lowe could have kept all of his feet on every single step inside the touchline on that. It had to be out. And then as the replays came up, it was like, hang on a second, that it all looks very, very close. What was your take on how that was handled then? Because it was given not a try, it was given in touch by the touch judge, the assistant referee, and then they didn't overrule it with use of the TMO.
Yeah, well, so when I first saw it, I agree from the rear angle alive, because there was a brilliant live shot of it. I was like, in touch. Brilliant bit of play in touch. And I was like, why is Murray complaining? And then when I saw the pictures, I was like, wow, how on earth has he had the balance? But then also, like, he is the in-form winger in the Six Nations for me. I think he's been brilliant, along with Biel Barry. But then I was like, what I'm like? I was I was getting a bit angry, going, hang on, what's going on here? Like, what is going on? Now, my understanding is, I don't know if you've discussed this with your referee friend, but my understanding is, I don't know, when a flag goes up, the argument is before the touchdown, which I think is what happens, just by a split second. I think there is some kind of unwritten thing that all the other, you notice, like, if you're a defensive team there, you just stop playing. You just go, it's in touch. So I'm not sure if they can come back. I don't know. I think it was a try, 100%, but it was handled how it was handled. It was what it was.
That's a really good point, and something I hadn't considered before there about the timing of the flag, because they did look at it in the TMO, but then they seemed to just come to a decision really, really quickly. And I thought, like, for me, it looked like he hadn't stepped out of touch. So the fact that they came to that decision so quickly, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask somebody about that, because I'm not sure. I think it might be down to the referee's whistle, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so interesting one that, but it was ruled out when I thought it probably should have been a try, and then Italy, and it was still within a score at this time, and Italy had some half chances towards the end, and I was just praying actually that they didn't score, because like the controversy to come back for that would have been enormous, and So and the game kind of played itself out then, and Ireland just inched home.
Yeah, and I was with Harty in Dublin at his house watching, and we didn't think we were going to win. Honestly, we were like, we're not winning. They are, and they kind of almost, I wouldn't say they deserved it. I think we probably played the better. We were probably the more ruthless team, but they deserved it. Like, you wouldn't have taken away from them if they had a little breakaway and got a score at the end. And and it was a bit of a damn swib then at the end when we got awarded a penalty and Sam just kicks it to himself and kicks it into touch and it's all booing. It was a bit, and my friends over there and they said it was a brilliant weekend and it was great crack and everything else, but it was a little bit disappointing in terms of performance, no doubt about it.
Yeah, you know what? I would have said Italy would have deserved the win if they hadn't have been so bad with their discipline, with the 3 yellow cards, because Nicotera got yellow carded right at the end for a stupid charge into a ruck as well. So they played like half an hour of that game down to 14 men. So if they could have not done that, then they would have definitely been in with a much better shout.
Yeah, and I'm sick of saying this every year. They're not a bad team. The Italians, they're just not, and they're going to start winning. I think they're going to start kind of creeping up a little bit, and particularly if Wales continue on their demise, and by the way, with really interesting being at home and looking and listening to the Irish press and how they report, man, I mean, it is getting as bad as New Zealand. It is. Right now they're saying that we need to start again, and actually that this whole Leinster school system is what's wrong with everything, and there's not enough. You need to strengthen the other. And I'm like, okay, listen, guys, everyone, chill out here. We're not a bad team. I think missing Andy Farrell has been a massive thing for Ireland during this thing. But look, the Italians are rightfully so, and I think will continue to get better and better with the sort of the genetics they have over there, skillful football guys and big, huge men, and I think they'll get better,
Yeah, and must always put this in context when we're talking about this kind of stuff as well. It's the Six Nations. It's a really difficult tournament to do well in or not do badly in because they're all good teams, apart from Wales maybe this year have sort of dropped off a little bit. But there's a lot of good teams, and to get a win in the Six Nations is a big deal.
It's massive. It really is. It's not easy, and I guess we forget that. And you're right. The outlier this year being a sort of collapsed squad in Wales, where you just get these massive. Was the first opening weekend 40 odd points, and they got absolutely humped by England by whatever it was 68. That kind of does throw it out a little bit, and that messes with also like this year for the first time. Even if we had got to a point where everything was level, the point scores the difference was crazy. It's 100 points, or whatever. We have to look at that. That needs to come down, and maybe we get rid of Wales and bring Georgia in. I'm joking, my Welsh brother. Not a chance.
No, yeah. I mean, it's the Six Nations is so strong as a competition. Like negotiating any kind of either relegation, promotion, or expansion needs to be thought about incredibly carefully and planned for a long, long time. And it's been spoken about for a long time. And I'm not surprised because to break up how it is at the moment could be damaging for everybody.
Yeah, well, unless they bring South Africa into it, which there was chat about, which I think would absolutely destroy the whole. It's not broken. I think it is a jewel in the crown, frankly, and they need to protect it if anything. Maybe look at. I know they're changing that week in the middle and stuff like that. Maybe they can look around what they can do with that with certain different fixtures. As we've spoken offline about how we can maybe bring the under 20s or actually the women's around the same time and or in between just before they start, and that gives them a kickstart to get more into it. But it is for me, and I'm really biased. It's the best even I actually prefer it to a World Cup. Probably because we do better in it, but
okay, we will leave this one here. But is there any other players or moments or anything from this game or otherwise that you want to pick out?
Yeah, well, I just had sort of as I do sort of three positives for me in terms of Ireland was we've spoken already was Sheehan and getting his hat trick, and I think he's probably. Touch wood, and he gets through the rest of the URC and the Champions Cup unscathed. I think he's a shoe in for being on the plane at minimum and probably starting berth at hooker. Tadhg Furlong back is the best. That's the number one thing I put down. I'm so happy he's back. He looked fresh. He looked in pretty good nick, to be fair, and he should be. I think he's been on a spin bike for 6 months, so that's really good, and look forward to watching him for Leinster as well. And the other thing was we've already spoken about was Gibson Park and his kick and sort of if Dupont did that then we'd all be raving about it, but it's good. It's wasn't a great performance, but I'm glad for those things. And obviously, we've already said goodbye, but Palm leaving and Marie's last game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. For the Italians, I think they've gone through a bit of transition this tournament in terms of tactically what they've been trying to do. And I think they've had a little bit of pain as a result of that. Hopefully, they'll be able to marry some of that pragmatism that they showed in the earlier rounds and layer on the brilliant attacking play that we've seen in previous games or previous tournaments and a little bit in this tournament. And if they can get those things together, then the coming years, then they could be another, they could really push forward and become a really good side.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, folks at home, that's what we think. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. Any sort of final thoughts about Ireland or Italy, this Six Nations as well? We'd love to hear it, and we'll join you there for a friendly conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there. Helps other people find it. Elko, thank you again for today and all your help throughout the championship.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, TT. It was great fun. Thanks a lot.
Good man. People at home, you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next. Don't forget to get out and play.